This is Business Rockstars.
It's Ken Rutkowski, Business Rockstars, connecting you to everything entrepreneur from starting to growing to funding your business. Later on the show, Keith Chambers is going to join us and we'll talk about triggers on what makes people buy stuff, which I think is pretty fascinating. So I'm in that 50-year-old category, and as I start to get older, I realize that the parents of the world, including mine, even though mine is extremely independent, maybe at one point in time might need some more help around the house. And what are the options that are out there? Well, a lot of times it's us going to the house being the kids, but maybe not. Things are changing, and the idea of making sure our older population is being taken care of the right way. The guy sitting next to me is doing it exactly the way he should be doing, and that is he's found a way to get a community together. Seth Sternberg's joining us, and your business is all around the idea of people a little older than you and I.
It's to help the elderly remain in their homes as they age. So, I think of that as our parents, and that's kind of folks, usually 70 to 80, 90, 100 years old.
It's a big population.
Huge population, yeah. 10,000 people every day in America turn 65.
Wow.
Right, every day for the next 19 years. So huge numbers of people just in America are aging. Mm-hmm. And the question is, how do we help people remain in their homes, kind of happy, healthy, and with comfort?
But feeling still independent in most respects,
That's
right?
right.
That's the idea, right? They want to feel like they're independent.
Yeah, we actually call that grace, right? Like,
grace.
How are people involved in society? How are people involved in their families? It's the social well-being of the person, right? Almost the how that person values themselves, right? And you don't want to let that go. You often hear, the best thing to do after you retire is keep working.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
Otherwise, you kind of start descending. And there's studies that show that. So it's really important for people to stay active.
I can never see myself retire. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, never.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And you could have.
That's true.
You could have.
Yes.
Let's talk a little about you real quick, okay? Yeah. You created a very interesting technology platform.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? What was it called?
I created a company called Meebo.
What is Meebo?
Meebo was a web chat platform back in the day, so tons of teenagers were using it, and it was basically go on and chat with each other. Almost like the older version of what's now a WhatsApp or a Facebook chat.
No, actually, let's go back to like ICQ or AIM, right? Yeah, how did you create a platform in a very crowded space, by the way, even during that time, right?
Yep.
You had ICQ, by the way, I'm 106279, just to let you know, or your AOL chat. How did you create a competitive platform? What made you unique compared to everybody else?
So there was not web-based chat back in 2005.
It was all application.
It was all application. You had to download and install something really heavy. Everything else was on the web browser, except for chat. And so we created the technology that let chat be in a web browser, and that was very unique.
And cross-platform too.
And cross-platform.
Because you could put ICQ and AIM and MSN all inside yours.
That's right.
Which was brilliant.
That's right, yep.
And you sold the company.
That's right, yeah. So in 2012, Google bought it, and so then we became part of Google. The whole company moved over. And then we worked on some stuff inside Google for a couple of years.
Okay, you're just jumping over everything. Okay. Google bought you.
That's right.
What was that like?
It was an interesting experience.
I mean, how'd they find you?
Oh, we were based a mile and a half down the road from them, so that's...
No, proximity's not. If they buy something from anywhere, I mean, you actually fit a need that they had.
Yeah, so Google, they were working on Google Plus at the time, and they didn't have a platform play. They didn't have a play that was really targeted toward developers to take some of the social elements that they had inside Google and make them usable in other people's applications. And so when we got into Google, we helped them figure out how to get Google social identity actually into other people's platforms. So the dominant thing we worked on is whenever you see sign in with Google,
yes,
right? Our team did that, right? So we created sign in with Google that then kind of got put in most of the applications that you now use.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's sign in by Google or Facebook Connect.
That's right. It's usually Google and Facebook right next to each other now.
Because everything was going to be open ID. You guys have found a way to actually...
Yeah.
No, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But either did Google Plus.
Yeah, Google Plus, now I think it's Stream and Photos and
I was so sad.
Not the whole.
I was so sad.
Yeah.
I felt like Google Plus was, let me see if I could break this down the right way. On Twitter, you were talking about Justin Bieber. On Facebook, you're kind of sharing pictures of Kim Kardashian. And on Google Plus, we're kind of pondering Einstein's concepts of relativity.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. It was a very intellectual group.
Yeah. I think Google Plus, the destination, right? So you have to separate kind of destination from kind of, social identity. I think Google Plus, the destination, actually could have been a really big thing around interests. Right? But I think that the feature set wasn't built out enough to let that flourish.
Well, no, and this is kind of goes with your business. The problem with Google is their engineers. Engineers are not artists.
Uh-huh.
And so when you build a house, you always bring in an architect and an engineer.
Yeah.
Engineers all around the structure, the architect is around aesthetics, right? So what happens is when you have super smart engineers together, it's hard to build something that feels good, looks good. It might function well. And that's why I was wondering, you're a very analytical type of guy. So when you built this new business, how did you bring engineers and architects together to make it so it really worked with everybody?
Yeah, so we actually don't even want consumers to think of Honor as a tech company. I mean, the reality is tech is our backbone.
Of course it is.
It makes everything better, but we're a human services company. Like when Honor walks through the door, that's a care professional that's going into someone's home to help them live their lives as fully as they possibly can. And that might be helping them get food, it might be helping them get out of bed or even take a bath. And so, that's a human experience, right? That's not a technology experience.
Yeah, but either is Uber in that sense then? And it is all technology.
Yeah, I
You're
think
the same way.
I think there's a lot of Uber that I think is also a human experience. I think the difference between, like, Uber is a very transactional experience, right? Like, you have a driver come, they pick you up, and you never see that driver again. And with home care, you actually build relationships, right? You're very likely to see the same person day in, day out for hours a day.
Got it.
And that's a very different kind of relationship it's truly a relationship business as opposed to kind of a transaction. I meet you once, I never see you again.
Well, I'm going to go back to Uber, and I didn't know this. You and I get rated on Uber. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know my rating.
You know your rating?
Yeah.
4.9.
4.8.
4.8?
Yeah.
Will you smile a little more? And then you, of course, rate your Uber driver, right? In your business, do you rate the caretaker?
Yeah, actually, both ways. So the care professional is rated by the families, and then the care professional also tells us about their experience with the families. And we're looking for, are there situations in the homes that make the care professionals uncomfortable too? And sometimes that actually lets us go into the home and help make things better, often for the elderly person.
So this, I'm guessing, started because you have somebody that's a little older.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, who is that? Parents?
So it's my mother.
Your mother.
Yep. And she's still very
fine.
young, very active. Yep.
Totally.
But I had this interesting experience. I went to visit her. She lives in Connecticut. And she picked me up at the airport. And she's just driving me home. And she used to get caught by the airplane speed traps. Right? I mean, I remember, ma'am, you were clocked by the airplane going 86 miles an hour, And she was driving slow. And I was just like, hey, Mom, why are you driving slow? And she said, oh, well, driving's a little harder than it used to be.
Oh, okay.
And that was like, ooh, 5 years from now, right? That was the first little, ooh. So I looked into, okay, well, I never want to be the kid that says, hey, Mom, I'm sorry, it's time for you to leave your home. How would I, not have to have that conversation with her ever? And it turns out we're no better off now than we were 20 years ago when we were dealing with my grandmother aging.
So that's where this all started.
That's where the whole thing started.
So what I want to do is when we come back, we're going to dive a little deeper into how you started this from that point. People want to find out more. What's the site?
Yeah, it's joinhonor.com.
And from there, all the information.
Yep, or
available
download
throughout
the
the
app.
United States?
Yep, it's just SF, whole San Francisco Bay Area and the whole of LA.
So your mother had to move in with you then, huh?
That's right.
We'll find out more as Seth gives us the idea of how to start a business like this because it's massive and he's got incredible people that are part of this organization. We'll dive into that. And later on, Keith Chambers is going to help us understand the triggers on making something pop out. Lots going on. Business Rockstars connecting you to everything entrepreneur right here at businessrockstars.com.
This is Business Rockstars.
Business Rockstars, connecting you to everything entrepreneur. From starting to growing to funding your passion, turning something real and sustainable. We're here to help you do that. Seth and I are having this conversation. We're going old school right now. Yeah, Yossi Vardy, ICQ. Did you ever use ICQ?
I did. Oh, I was a huge ICQ.
Were you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here is where my stupidity came into play. 8 years after ICQ was dead, gone, AOL bought it, I realized what ICQ stood for. ICQ.
ICQ.
I didn't know. Wow. I wish I would have known back then.
Yeah.
106274. Okay, so I still know my number. Do you know your number?
I don't remember my number now.
You know, Meebo.
Meebo let me forget it.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, you're right. But Meebo was so cool because it simplified everything.
Yeah.
You log on, bam, everything is there, right?
Yeah.
So you lived in this tech world where you can tweak things really quick, really fast.
Yeah.
You got a different business now. Tweaking things is personalities.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a little harder, isn't it?
Yeah, but actually one of the advantages I think we bring to home care is that we do a software release every 3 days.
To who?
And to our care professionals. So the care professionals have our app on their phone, and it gives them client information, it gives them a care plan for what they should do in the home. And so we can tell the care professionals, like, hey, for this customer, you might want to do something different than for a different customer, because maybe your mom has diabetes, maybe my mom has cancer, and that means they should do something different in the home. So we can make the humans much better, much more personalized for your parents. And I think your point on Meebo and how that made things simpler, like in today's world, it is really hard to get home care for your parents. It's like a multi-week process. You have to interview a ton of people. It's stressful. You don't know what's happening in the home. We're trying to get rid of all that, right? We're trying to make it really simple to find the best person, and then know, like on your app, right? You can see, oh, this is who went to my mom's home, and this is what they did.
As me being the kid, where I can actually follow what's going on.
That's right.
And by the way, this validates it because just a couple of days ago, you made some pretty big announcements.
Yeah, that's right. So we announced two things, really. A slate of advisors who are amazing, like Carol Raphael. She ran the Visiting Nurse Service of New York for 22 years, right?
That's a big deal.
She's also the chairwoman of AARP. Or Bruce Leff, right, who pioneered hospital at home as a professor and practicing geriatrician at Johns Hopkins University. Or Ron Greeno is actually in LA right here, and he's the chief strategy officer at IPC, which is a big doctors group.
This is your advisory board.
This is the advisory board, and these people help us a ton, right? Because they know so much about keeping people happy and healthy in home, and how to really enable the care professionals.
You also had a big organization you partnered with also.
That's right. So American Cancer Society and Honor have come together, and we formed a relationship where we're now taking American Cancer Society's best practices for how to help people with cancer.
That's great.
And we're deploying that to our care pros. So that's a great example, right? Overnight, boom, our care pros can have in their app if their customer has cancer.
So on Wednesday, when you announced it, a couple of days ago, all that was automatically in there.
That's right. It just goes into the app. It hasn't actually, that hasn't deployed into the app quite yet. It'll be there very soon. But we now have access to all that data. And a care pro going into a home, they'll be able to do something like, oh, if you have cancer and you're going through chemotherapy, maybe you have to eat a little bit different, right? Or maybe if you have a temperature, that means something different than someone who doesn't have cancer. Right? So literally treating you differently, but in more appropriate ways because you have cancer.
So the caregiver is always in the now and in the know.
That's right.
That's pretty powerful.
For your particular needs. And
like
we're taking the best-in-class American Cancer Society, right? And that's what's now being fed to the care pros and the Honor.
Again, the website is?
It's joinhonor.com.
It's a good name, by the way. Cost you a fortune, I bet.
No.
Whatever a fortune is. Let's go back to your mother who's driving slow. You feel like there has to be some change.
Yeah.
She's still in Connecticut.
She is in Connecticut.
So you can't drop this technology over there yet.
It's tough. Yeah, I mean, I think that the elderly, like products for the elderly, by and large, are not very good, right? It's a space that I think the technology industry, the innovation industry, I don't think our industry has done a great job.
By the way, we need to come up with a better name than elders or older. How about seasoned citizen?
That's not bad.
Seasoned, not senior, but seasoned citizen.
We should ask people.
That's what, let them crowdsource their name, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But so your mother's out there, but you can't do this there, nor Miami or Chicago, those areas yet, right?
Yeah.
I'm expecting you to expand globally.
Well, the way I see this, I literally see it like building a rocket ship. So you have to spend time in a warehouse building a rocket ship so that when you do launch it, it doesn't break up.
Okay.
Right? But once you're ready, you can go very fast. So once you see us start to expand, and we've expanded into Los Angeles now, so basically covering the two largest metro areas of California. Once we're ready to expand, it will go across the country relatively quickly.
When you say Los Angeles, are you talking about LA proper?
LA and the Valley.
And the Valley.
Yep.
So it's a big area then.
Yeah, it's a big area we're covering.
Not Orange County yet.
Not Orange County yet.
But I'm guessing you would probably try to hit the West Coast first.
We'll be a little more agnostic on coasts. There's a lot of value to being able to do this across the continent. And you've also got families that live in different cities, right? Like your kids might live in Miami and you live in
I think
Houston, right?
The entire state of Florida, you need to do.
We do. We need to get to Florida. No doubt about it.
It's like you would be $1 billion business just with that
Just in
state.
Florida?
Yeah, just in Florida.
Yep.
But it's interesting, Florida and Arizona, but this is a rollout. How long have you been doing this?
It is. We've been live for about 9 months now.
That's pretty
customers.
impressive. You raised about, is it public how much you raised?
Yeah, we raised $20 million. We actually believe that we're within the top 3 largest elder care providers in the San Francisco Bay Area now. So it's grown very quickly.
In less than a year, yeah. And you got some big investors too, right?
That's right, yep. So Mark Andreessen.
Mark or Andreessen Horowitz?
Andreessen Horowitz, the fund, put $15 million in.
Okay.
Mark Andreessen joined our board.
Wow.
And then we've got a slate of other investors, about 25 people who did another $5 million. And they did it, following Mark Andreessen and Andreessen Horowitz. And that's folks like, from the internet folks, like, Max Levchin, who did PayPal, or Jeremy Stoppelman, who did Yelp, to, Bob Kerrey, the former governor, senator from Nebraska.
Really?
Or Ben Jealous, who was the president of the NAACP for 4 years.
Why would they be getting excited about your business?
So, Honor helps three kind of classes of folks, right? The elderly, and we've not done a good job of advancing things for the elderly.
You mean us as a society?
As a society, that's right. They're caregivers, and if you look at the stats on caregivers, there are 40 million people who caregive for the elderly, and it actually impacts their health, right? So if you're, caregiving for an ailing parent or for your spouse, right, that hurts you on a health basis over time. And then the care pros, like the care professionals who are sent into people's homes, have been treated extraordinarily poorly throughout time. 56% are on government assistance programs.
Holy cow.
So we're
I didn't know that.
It's statistics.
So you're giving them now a tool to make extra money, be better informed and educated, and take better care.
They're better paid, well better paid than average on Honor's platform. They are given tools to do a much better job, right? Our retention, we just talked about this publicly actually. So our churn annually is 11%, and that's compared to 60% average churn in this industry. And when we have people churn, it's often they got their RN and went to a major health system, right?
They became a nurse at a
That's right,
hospital.
and like a major, yeah.
What are you disrupting? What industry are you actually disrupting?
So there's actually a $30 billion industry in the United States called, non-medical home care, and that is the industry that we're trying to remake top to bottom.
Are you disrupting it?
I think we are pretty much disrupting it, yes.
You realize the minute you start disrupting, legacy businesses are going to do whatever they can to slow you down. That Have you felt that at all?
People definitely compete against us, and they put stuff out there, right? They'll say, oh, they're technology people, they don't understand care. That one I kind of find funny, right? Because as an entrepreneur, one of the big benefits you have is you go into an industry with a different perspective, but then you hire people or you bring on advisors who have experience in the industry. Like the person who runs Care for Us, she spent the first 13 years of her life organizing care professionals for unions in San Jose. She understands this workforce.
Totally does.
Or the woman who runs health systems for us. She started her career on the startup team of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation, right? So
you got a great team.
Amazing team.
But let's talk about the idea of as you get older.
Yeah.
Okay, your business do well.
Yep.
You of course, if you wanted to, you can retire. You have enough in the bank yourself. Sure. You said you don't want to retire after you retire, right?
Not a chance.
Wouldn't it be more advantageous for the people you're working with, not your employees, but to help them feel like they're always working and staying active mentally?
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just about taking care of them physically, but mentally also, right?
We think so much about that. So probably the biggest issue for the elderly is actually social isolation, right? It becomes harder to get out of your home, harder to drive at night in bad weather, driving period, and people are stuck in their homes, right? So there's this phrase, aging in place, and that's actually not great, right?
No.
People do want to stay in their homes. 90% of the elderly want to remain in their homes, but not isolated, right? So you have to figure out how people can age in community, right? Like how do you keep people socially engaged, which is a big part of staying healthy and happy.
Right, of course it is.
And that's something that we think deeply about. That goes back to Meebo. Right?
Because the community. It's interesting. Do you know about blue zones? Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I do actually.
So the blue zones are where people live over 100 years old. There's about 6 blue zones throughout the world.
Yep.
And they did a fascinating study of what was consistent amongst every blue zone, okay? One was they ate more plants than meat.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2 is they exercised every single day.
Yep.
3, they woke up with a purpose.
Yep.
So there was a reason for them to wake up. And last was community.
Yeah.
They had friends.
Yep.
So if there's a way you could help them with all 4 of those, these people
that's right.
will age gracefully is the term
right.
that you used.
Yep.
Right? So how do you help them out on the community aspect? You came from a community side platform.
That's right.
How do you help out a community?
Yeah. So that's one of the features that I'm dying to launch.
Oh, okay.
But we haven't gotten to launch yet.
But it is an aspect of your business in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when we have a little more density, right? When we're a little bit bigger, sky's the limit on what we can do to help people remain socially connected.
I see why you're a good investment.
Thank you.
I do. Diet obviously is important. Exercise, purpose.
Yeah.
So the relationship that's built up through what you're doing, is there a sense of purpose where, hey, my caretaker's coming by, or this person where they feel like there's a relationship now?
You know what's fascinating is, so it's funny, we provide kind of social relationships literally between the care professionals and the elderly. Like they form tight bonds. Like I said, this is a relationship business. This is not a transactional business. The care professionals, though, it's important to have them feel purpose too.
Fair enough.
Because they do a much better job. And so one of the things that we've really dove hard on is how do we give the care professionals purpose? How do we make them almost superhuman, right? How do we give them superpowers?
You're giving them the app, the tools.
Exactly. And that lets them do a much better job.
It's so
they
strong.
feel much better about themselves.
When's your next round? I want to invest.
Right?
When's your next? I mean, sir, you got a hot business. Again, right now on the West Coast, LA and San Francisco, it's going to expand. Seth, people want to find out more. Where do they go?
They go to joinhonor.com.
Joinhonor.com, find out more. If you're a kid with parents that are seasoned citizens, you might want to look a little deeper into this, or this is a tool you need to pass around your community. It's a lifesaver, literally a lifesaver. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Cool. I know you're going back to San Francisco. Enjoy your flight back. When we come back, triggers to make you want to buy stuff. What are they? We'll find out more. Ken Rutkowski connecting you to everything entrepreneur right here on Business Rockstars.